Hey there, folks, the Riot here. Before we begin today's story, I just want to ask if you do me a quick favor. Doesn't cost you anything. Hit that like and subscribe button, then comment down below. And don't forget the little bell icon. That way you'll be notified each time a new story is uploaded. And I thank you for doing that. It is very much appreciated. All right, let's begin. We cannot be held responsible for damages caused by shopping carts. That's what the sign says above the cart corral in the middle of the parking lot. I love that sign. That means I can hit stuff with shopping carts. Nah, I'm just kidding. I would never do anything like that. Hi, I'm Jimmy. Nice to meet you. I'm the cart getter guy here at Barnaby's. There's a real name for my job, but I can't remember it. Anyway, I live in a beat up mobile home in a trailer park not far from here, but that's not important. I've been at Barnaby's about 3 years now, doing the same thing every single day that I work. I don't mind though. I get to meet all kinds of interesting people and hear all kinds of interesting stories. Most people are nice, but sometimes you get the occasional butthead. Anyway, I found all kinds of cool stuff that people left behind in shopping carts. Wallets, purses, pacifiers, shoes, umbrellas. Hell, one time someone even left their kid in a cart. How the hell do you forget your kid? Anyway, they come back a few minutes later to pick up the kid like it was no big deal. I don't understand people at all. They gave me $5 though for watching the little guy. Don't tell Mr. Barnaby because we're not allowed to accept tips. Anyway, all the important stuff I turn into the office, but the little stuff I take home with me. I got a huge collection in a box in my closet, but that's not important. I'm sure I'm not the first to tell you, but Barnaby's is a very old store. Our shopping carts are still made of plastic, not metal like the new ones. They're all cracked and missing pieces. Somebody's going to hurt themselves one day. Anyway, I'm a huge animal lover. I love all animals. Dogs, cats, fish, birds, etc. But I'm not too big on bugs, though. Not too many people are. I volunteer at least 20 hours a week at the local ASPCA. Now, for those of you that don't know what ASPCA stands for, or even what it stands for the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. It's an organization that helps neglected, mistreated, and abused animals and has for over 150 years. Anyway, Mr. Barnaby said that he's looking for stories about horrible and weird events that happen here. Well, this isn't weird or freaky or anything, just horrible. Anyway, it was last summer, the day after Tommy found that dead body in the ice cream thingy, but that's a different story. It was really hot that day. Now, I always keep a bottle of water in my back pocket to drink so I don't get dehydrated and pass out. It was around 3 p.m., the end of my shift. I was gathering my last run of carts when I saw a group of people standing over by a beat-up Chevy. There was an older woman on her cell phone, a big burly trucker guy, and a young couple standing there looking inside the car. The woman was obviously upset. She was yelling at the person on the other end of the call, then hung up. I went over to see what was going on, the curious guy that I am. What I saw in the back seat of that car got my blood boiling. I was mad as hell. There was a little dog, a little fuzzy dog, passed out in the back seat, his tongue hanging out of his mouth, and he was breathing really heavy. I knew he wasn't going to make it unless somebody did something. All the windows in the car were rolled up, and the car was locked. It had to have been at least 120 degrees in there. What kind of moron does this to a dog? Everyone was just standing there talking about what to do. I knew what to do. Bust the damn window out. Anyway, I took off my shirt, wrapped it around my fist, and punched right through the back driver's side window. The shirt really didn't help, though, as the glass cut my hand and wrist pretty good. There was blood dripping everywhere, but I didn't care about that. I cleared the glass from around the window and reached into the car and grabbed the little guy. His body was limp. He was still breathing, though, so that was a good sign. His eyes were rolled back into his head, and he was whining a little bit. I knew I had to act fast. I laid him in the grass, as it was cooler than the concrete. I took the bottle of water out of my back pocket and dumped it, a little bit at a time, on top of him, rubbing it into his fur to bring his body temperature back down. After a minute or so, he started to come back to life. I picked him up and was holding him as he licked my face. Anyway, just then, I heard an angry voice from behind me say, "What did you do to my car?" The dog went from sweet and lovable to vicious and mean in 2 seconds flat. He was barking and growling, going crazy. I turned around to see a guy about mid-30s, wearing old, dirty, nasty clothes. He looked like he hadn't bathed since Jesus walked the earth. And smell? Oh my God, did he smell? He smelled like old sweat, dirt, and feet. Anyway, without saying a word, the trucker guy just hauled off and punched the guy dead straight in his face, knocking him back a couple of steps. He was bent over holding his face. The dog became calm at this point. As the guy stood up, I could see that his nose was completely broken. There was blood pouring out all over his mouth, his chin, and his clothes. He took a step forward and swung at the trucker guy. I later found out that his name was Dave. The trucker guy, not the other one. Anyway, the guy threw a punch and missed. What happened next looked like something out of Monday Night Raw. Oh, I love wrestling. Anyway, Dave hit him in the chest, scooped him up, and body slammed him straight through the windshield of his own car. It was great. The guy just laid there, spread all over his front seat. Glass and blood was everywhere. Dave reached in, grabbed him by the shirt, and drug him back out through the windshield, the broken glass cutting his arms and his legs. He was kicking and screaming and cursing. Dave dragged him over to the back of his semi, opened the trailer door, punched him again, and threw him into the trailer. He locked the door and shouted, "Now you're going to know what it feels like." The guy screamed and kicked on the trailer door for a few minutes and then stopped. Dead silence. Dave reached into his shirt pocket, pulled out a cigarette, lit it, and walked back to where we were all standing. The cops arrived about 20 minutes later and attempted to get our statements. They asked what happened. We all played stupid. "I don't know," was the collective response. Dave walked over, let the guy out of the truck, and as he did, the guy fell face first out of the trailer, landing hard on the concrete. He was bleeding, sweating, and gasping for air. He deserved it. Anyway, the cop took a look at the dog, the damaged car, and the guy laying on the ground. He then looked at us, smiled, put his notepad back in his pocket, and walked away. The paramedics showed up, tended to my hand, which wasn't that bad at all, just a couple of minor cuts. They tended to the guy after the cops arrested him for cruelty to animals. They put him in the back of the ambulance. They accidentally, on purpose, hit his head a couple times on the top of the door frame. Oh, that shit was funny. Anyway, they loaded him up and left, and the cops left as well. Dave shook my hand, then hopped in his truck and rolled on. The lady and the couple got in their cars and left as well. I was left standing there, holding the dog. Since it was the end of my shift, I carried the little guy inside, punched out for the day, and took him home with me. I introduced him to my other dog, Roscoe, but that's a totally different story. Anyway, I decided to name him Enos. Get it? Roscoe and Enos, Dukes of Hazzard? Never mind. It's no TV show. They seem to get along fine, though. They just hang out and play in the yard. Anyway, the cop from that day stopped by the store a couple weeks later. He said the guy was found guilty of intentional animal cruelty, fined $5,000, and is now serving 3 years in prison. Serves him right. His car still sits in the parking lot. The birds now use it for target practice, and they never miss.